The turkey was still steaming when my father cleared his throat. He loved theatrics, loved holding power in his hands like a trophy. "We're selling the company," he declared, voice booming across the long mahogany table. "And you," his eyes locked on me, cold and sharp, "you're getting nothing." The forks froze. My siblings smirked, exchanging glances like wolves circling prey. One of them actually clapped. The betrayal wasn't new, but the glee, that burned. I didn't flinch. I just sipped my wine, calm, deliberate, letting silence stretch before I asked, "Dad, who's the buyer?" His chest puffed, pride spilling out. "Everest Holdings." I laughed, low, steady, then leaned back. "Dad, I am Everest Holdings." The room collapsed into silence. It hadn't always been war. When I was young, I thought my father's approval was the air I breathed. I followed him into boardrooms, studied ledgers at his knee. He called me the sharp one, promised one day I'd inherit the company. But words are cheap. By 16, I saw the shift. My siblings, the favorites, were handed allowances, cars, opportunities. I was handed criticism. Too intense, too ambitious, not a team player. Translation, I couldn't be controlled. The night I overheard him tell my mother, "He'll never run this company. He doesn't know his place," something in me hardened. That was the moment love died. I began watching, listening. Patterns emerged. The company wasn't the fortress he pretended it was. Deals were sloppy, records outdated, contracts left cracks wide enough for me to slip through. I started small, internships at rival firms, shadowing mergers, studying acquisitions like scripture. My siblings wasted their summers in Europe. I learned how money moved quietly, how empires were stolen without firing a shot. And I realized something. Revenge doesn't need rage. It needs patience. By 25, I'd built a shell corporation, anonymous, silent, Everest Holdings. No one knew my name behind it. I spent years building its reputation, weaving trust with banks, investors, and lawyers. Piece by piece, it became untouchable. Meanwhile, I waited for my father's arrogance to blind him, waited for the moment he'd sell, certain he was cutting me out. And tonight, Thanksgiving night, that moment arrived, dressed in his smug smile. When I said the words, "I am Everest Holdings," the color drained from his face. My mother's hand shot to her mouth. My siblings stared, jaws slack, confusion giving way to panic. I let the silence choke them, let the truth seep in like poison. Finally, my father croaked, "Impossible!" I leaned forward, eyes locked on his. "Check the paperwork, the lawyers, the signatures. It's all mine. You didn't sell the business, Dad. You handed it back to me." The beauty of revenge is in the details. I had made sure every step was clean, every contract airtight. I hadn't just bought the company, I had restructured it. Their positions, their perks, their cushioned salaries, gone. My siblings, who cheered my exile, now sat pale and silent, realizing their inheritance had evaporated in a single stroke. My father, once the king at the head of the table, looked suddenly small. I didn't shout, I didn't gloat, I let them drown in the weight of their own choices. Then, softly, I said, "Do you know why I created Everest? Because you taught me something valuable, Dad. Never trust the promises of family. Trust the numbers. Trust the contracts. They never lie." My mother whispered my name, pleading, but I didn't look at her. She had watched it all, silent, complicit. The rest of dinner was uneaten. The laughter that once filled holidays was gone, replaced with the sound of knives scraping plates, no one daring to speak. I carved my turkey slowly, deliberately, as if nothing had changed, because for me, nothing had. I'd known for years this day would come. The difference was they hadn't. Later that night, as I stood at the head of the now empty dining room, I replayed it in my mind. The moment of revelation, the silence that followed, the way their eyes begged for a reality that no longer existed. I felt no guilt, no sorrow, only clarity. They thought betrayal would break me. Instead, it built me. The next morning I walked into the company's headquarters, not as the son cast aside, but as the owner. Employees whispered, rumors spreading fast. My father's portrait still hung in the lobby, but soon it would come down. I paused in front of it, staring at his stern face frozen in paint. "You taught me to fight for respect," I murmured. "You just never thought I'd win." That's the thing about revenge. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be violent. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is just patience sharpened into a blade, and the silence that finally cuts. And that silence is exactly what I heard at Thanksgiving.